This is part 16 of What If Naruto Lost His Sight. Link in description. This is the last part of this what if, but we will have another what if tomorrow. If you enjoy this what if, then like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Start chapter 42. T1. Tilde 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 tilde. Hi Naru-chan. Did you miss me? Fu, what are you doing here? I asked as the girl's now soaked hair dripped onto my face. She didn't seem to notice. Can't a girl visit her good friend from time to time? Her voice held a pout that was no doubt mirrored on her face. I'm on a mission. Funny, so am I. Or, I'm supposed to be. Question. If your teammates ditch you, are you still on a mission? Because either they ditched me or we're in the middle of a very intense game of hide and seek. Seriously, are you sure you didn't just lose them on your own? I asked suspiciously. Of course I didn't, silly, she said, bopping me on the nose with a finger. You see, one of my teammates made Chunin, so I was doing a delivery mission with him and two other genin. We stopped in the town for the night, the one you're headed to, and we're going to continue in the morning. Unfortunately, when I woke up, the other three were gone. Have you even looked for them? Well duh, that's how hide and seek works. What do you think I've been doing for the last 3 days? They must be really good hiders if they can keep from being found for 3 days. Please say you don't honestly think they're still playing hide and seek. I asked desperately, not sure if she was being honest or not. Come on, Naruto, she exclaimed, no doubt rolling her eyes at me. Can't you have a little fun once in a while? I do, just most of it doesn't involve you. We should change that, she said, her voice grinning. We really shouldn't. Anyways, yes, I've looked for them everywhere. Over here, throughout the town, I even asked the bandits that hang out on the other side of town. Nothing. She threw her hands up in the air for emphasis. I would have checked the bandit camp too, but it was a week away and they've only been gone 3 days. They're nowhere to be seen, and neither is their stuff, so I'm guessing they ditched me. Lovely, I stated flatly. I know, right? Are you two done making out? Jiraiya called from the road, sounding too amused for his own good. Because I'd really like to be in town before nightfall. We're not making out, I shouted back. Not yet anyways, Fu added. I sent her a glare but only got a giggle in response. Get off. But you're so comfy, she whined as she crossed her arms across my chest. Though I am getting a weird sense of deja vu. I don't see why. You've only done this to me over 24 times. Now get off. Fiend, she said, climbing to her feet slowly. I followed suit, wincing slightly as my sore leg twinged. It really didn't like the sudden assault via Fu. I rubbed it for a moment, almost feeling Fu's eyes on me as I did. You're hurt. I'm fine, I replied, letting go of my leg and starting back onto the road. Her footsteps followed close behind me. You're limping. Why are you limping? Maybe because you just shoved me into the damn bushes. Or maybe it was the broken leg you suffered a few days ago, Jiraiya pipped up as I gawked at him. He shrugged. What? It could be a factor, couldn't it? You broke your leg. Technically an S-rank bastard with a sword broke it, but that's beside the point. That's not fine, Naruto. That's the opposite of fine. You probably shouldn't even be on a mission right now. Accelerated healing, remember? Yeah, and if you're still limping despite that, then it was bad. Nothing I couldn't handle, I told her before turning towards my sensei. Can we go now? But Naru-chan. She whined. Jiraiya nodded and we continued walking. I used one of my alternate focus points to look back at Fu. Her head was dropped and she wasn't following us. When after a few yards, she still hadn't moved, I sighed. Are you coming or what? I called back, making her head pop up. She grinned wide enough me to pick up before darting forward and latching onto my arm happily. I hid a wince as it, once again, added stress to the wrong leg for a moment. I can really go with you guys? She asked happily. You are going to follow us anyways, might as well just stay in the group. Thanks, she exclaimed, hugging my arm closer. I already have a room at the inn, if you want to use that. It's a 2-room one, so it's big enough. It was for our whole team, but I've just continued to pay for it so I wouldn't have to camp outside without any camping supplies. That sounds great, Jiraiya said. Thank you. We walked in silence for a little while, or as close to silence as you can get with Fu's content humming and Jiraiya's perverted note-taking. I was a little worried on what he was writing down on that pad of his, since he wasn't doing so before Fu arrived. I hoped that later on I wouldn't find that particular moment played out in one of his erotic novels, but, with a sensei like mine, it probably would. Speaking of his stories, I glanced over at Fu, getting a brilliant idea as I did. So Fu, I said, getting her attention. From the sudden lack of muttering next to us, my tone got Jiraiya's as well. Have you ever read the book, Tale of the Gutsy Ninja? No. Well, you're in for a treat because Jiraiya's been reading it to me at night. I already told you, I'm not reading it again, Jiraiya exclaimed. I grinned in response. But sensei, Fu hasn't read it. We need to fix it. Then lend her the damn book. But it's so much more enjoyable when it's read aloud, Fu pleaded, obviously picking up on what I was doing and deciding to help. And it takes me such a long time to read books. I just can't sit still long enough to finish them. Yeah, sensei, take pity on her and read it for us please. I sent him my best puppy dog eyes that Fu no doubt mirrored. You two are a force to be reckoned with when you actually get along, he muttered, turning his attention back to his notes. Fine, but this is the last time. Yes, I said, high-fiving Fu at our victory. I have no idea why you did that, but I'm excited anyway. She said, laughing lightly. You'll see, that book's awesome. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. 2 hours later. Hey Naruto, Fu called to get my attention. We had made it to the hotel room a little while ago and had just settled in. As soon as we arrived, Jiraiya had shut himself in the second room saying he needed quiet so he could write, which left me and Fu in this room until he was done. The plan was that Fu gets the spare one once we retire for the night, but until then she was stuck kicking her feet out from under her chair while I focused on figuring out my exercise from the bed. It probably would have been the other way around, but Fu insisted I put my injured leg up to give it a rest. What Fu? I asked, not taking my attention away from the balloon. Does he know? If you're talking about Jiraiya, then you're going to have to be more specific. He knows a lot of things, and probably doesn't know a lot more. About your eyes. Does he know? Yeah, he figured it out a while ago, I answered after a moment. He's known about 3 weeks longer than you have. Then why didn't you say he knew when you explained things to me in Gaara? Because I didn't know that he knew. But did he know that you didn't know that he knew? She asked, making me sigh and put down my balloon. Fu, you're making this a lot harder than it has to be, I told her, getting a small apology before I continued. He knows I'm blind. Why he didn't confront me about it earlier, I don't know. But that doesn't really matter, I guess. I mean, even without both of us on the same page, we still got what I needed to get accomplished. In fact, part of this mission's objective is to convince this medic nin to fix my eyes, so it's all working out. That's good, she said, her chair shifting slightly. Do you think they will be able to do it? To fix them, I mean. She's the best, so if she can't, I'm pretty much screwed, I answered. My face was aimed down for a moment before I turned back towards her with a nonchalant shrug. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I'm able to function without my eyes fine by now. I just thought it would be nice to see color again. Fu was silent for a long time as I fidgeted with my sleeve. After a while the chair creaked as she got up, seemed to hop the few feet between her and the bed before shaking the entire mattress as she jumped onto it. Before I could ask her what the hell she was doing, she leaned in close and planted a kiss on my cheek, making me blush. "I hope you get to see color again too," she whispered in my ear. I sputtered briefly as my otherwise silent tenant groaned in disgust. Unable to come up with a reply, I turned my focus back onto the balloon, raising it up once again so I could figure out this puzzle. "So, what ya doin'?" Fu asked, peering over my shoulder as she laid her head on it. "Trying to pop this balloon," I answered, not moving my attention from the balloon in my hand. The water swirled in it sloppily, but it only stretched the balloon. "You know you can do that with a kunai, right? But the whole point of the exercise is to do it by swirling the water using chakra," I answered, releasing the chakra so the balloon resumed its normal shape. "Plus, I tried that," Jiraiya scolded me. "Oh, then why hasn't it popped yet? There's some sort of trick that Ero Sennin wants me to figure out for myself. It's frustrating. I have a hard time with the water in general, but even when I do get it moving, it just stretches the damn balloon." "Wow, can I try?" she asked. I sighed, tossing it to her. "Knock yourself out." I assumed she caught the balloon, since I didn't hear it splat on the floor. She quickly came around to my front, carefully hopping over my outstretched leg to find a comfy spot on the bed. She held the balloon in her hand, swirling the water inside with ease. "You're having trouble with this?" "It's easy," she said tauntingly. "You have a shit ton of water-based jutsus. Of course it's going to be easy for you." "Ah, poor Naru-chan's jealous," she exclaimed. "He has a hard time swirling it one way. I bet I can do more." "Phew, this isn't a competition," I told her flatly, but she did it anyways. Now the balloon was stretching out horizontally and vertically. "Wow, look how easy this is. I'm already doing twice as much swirling as you," she said, with an audible smirk. I rolled my eyes. "Think I can do 3? Your chakra control's hardly good enough for those 2. Don't think just because I'm blind I can't notice you struggling. You're right, I can totally do 3. She started a third stream, or at least tried. I could tell from the way the balloon bent that it would start up and pitter out before it could truly get going. I watched her struggle with it for a minute or two before it finally got going for real. "See, I told you I could." Before she could finish her sentence, the balloon exploded, soaking both of us in the process. For about 30 seconds we sat there, staring at her empty palm as we tried to figure out what just happened. "Where'd it go?" "Multiple streams," I murmured, the solution dawning on me finally. "What?" "The answer. It's multiple streams. Each with their own direction. That's why the balloon popped. It can't stretch several directions at once." "Phew, you're a genius," I yelled happily. "I am. I need another balloon." I jumped off the bed, falling flat on my face when I didn't wait until my feet were under me to do so. I popped up off the floor, darting to the room Jiraiya was currently occupying. I threw open the door, getting a startled squawk from my sensei in response. "What the hell are you?" "I need another balloon." "Did you drop the other one already?" "Another balloon." "Fine," he snapped, pulling out a storage scroll and popping a balloon out of it. "Take it." He tossed it at me, almost making me miss it when it disappeared from my view for a moment. When I finally had it in hand, I focused on it intently, making one stream flow around the balloon. Once that stream was fully established, I started another one. It was a lot harder trying to keep that one going as well, compared to just the one. As much as I wanted to try to pop it, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get that third stream going until my control was getter. "I see you've finally figured out the secret," Jiraiya said, a hint of pride in his voice. I smiled back happily. "Multiple streams. Good job. Now you just have to do it." "I'll have it done before you know it," I exclaimed, losing control of the streams as I did. "And then you'll have to teach me the second phase of it." Looking forward to it, he happily. Now get out or I'll use you as a field test for my new novel. I stood there for a moment, wondering if this new novel was anything like Tale of the Gutsy Ninja but not sure if I should ask. Jiraiya sighed, before picking up his paper and clearing his throat. Wow, Minoru, it's so big. Mai said as she stared at his. I'm out. I ran out of that room faster than I had run into it, slamming the door shut as I went. I could hear that pervert chuckling on the other side as he no doubt went back to work. So, what's going on again? Because I literally have no idea, Fu said as I shuffled back towards my original spot. And why's your face red? Because my sensei's a pervert, that's why. I think he's overdue for a prank as well. Prank? Fu perked up considerably, sounding way too happy about the prospect. Why does he need a prank? What are you going to do to him? Whatever it is, can I help? Yeah, sure, why not? The bastard deserves it anyways. End chapter 42. End chapter 43. Blindsided by twice the trouble. T1. Tilde 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 tilde. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. The next morning. It was way too early when my eyes popped open to an unearthly scream. I jolted upright, rushing to turn on my echoes, afraid of what might have happened. Were more of those kidnappers back? Were they after Fu this time? When I finally got an image back from the echoes, I relaxed, finding it was only Jiraiya standing over a pile of papers. What the hell? I muttered, flopping back onto my bed just as Fu came stumbling out of her room. She had her fists raised and was looking around the room for danger. She quickly came to the same conclusion as I did, dropping her fists to her side. My manuscript, Jiraiya wailed, holding the papers up in lament. What happened to it? Looks fine to me, I muttered as Fu shuffled over to my bed, flopping down face first at the end of it. Jiraiya sent what I assumed was a powerful glare at me. The whole thing's ruined. The entire thing is covered in corrections that make it utterly useless. Now it just sounds like an academy student wrote a bunch of words down on a scroll and claimed it's a story. He exclaimed. I tried to hide my smirk as he talked, but it was a little hard when the memory of our prank was filtering back to me. Apparently Jiraiya noticed. You did this, didn't you? Who, me? I asked, placing a hand on my chest dramatically. Fu snorted in amusement. Why would I ever do that to you? Not to mention, I can't even read it, so I don't see how I could possibly. Don't even play that card with me, Naruto. I don't believe for a moment that you didn't convince Fu to help you, he said, sounding furious. This is revenge for the field test, isn't it? And not telling me earlier that you knew I was blind. And for mentioning my parents even though you knew you weren't going to tell me about them. And for being a general ass all around. While those are all fairly good reasons to prank someone, they are not good reasons to ruin someone's livelihood. He exclaimed, his voice getting louder as he spoke. I yawned. Do you know how long it's going to take me to fix it? It took Fu half the night with 2 water clones just to transcribe it, so at least that long. I crossed my arms under my head as I could almost hear my sensei reaching his boiling point. You brat, I oughta. He cut off suddenly, a long silence filling the air as he processed my words. Wait, transcribed. About then Fu reached under the bed, pulling out another stack of papers about the same thickness, waving them over her head tiredly. You. Yes, we transcribed the whole thing and edited the other copy. Your precious porn book is safe. Though the edits we made do make for a more entertaining story, I explained as Jiraiya rushed over to grab the clean copy. I particularly like the one where we replaced all the words, dick, with, katana. That makes things so much more interesting. And more bloody, Fu muttered into the sheets. Yup, it also makes Mai's line on page 45 so much better in general. Jiraiya stared at us for a moment before flipping through the pages that had been abandoned on the desk. Now that's a katana, Jiraiya said flatly. No, You have to say it with more enthusiasm. This is a girl that likes her weapons after all. I hate you. I hate you both, Jiraiya stated, obviously not amused. Get dressed. We're leaving in 10 minutes. But what about breakfast? I asked. I'm still sleepy, Fu murmured. Well, you should have thought of that before you stayed up half the night to mess with my manuscript. He gave us another glare before sealing the thing inside a new scroll and pocketing it. Do you even have a lead to where she is? In fact, I do, and if we don't leave now, we could very well miss her, he said as he left the room, slamming the door behind him. He's grumpy, Fu murmured yet again, this time having the decency to turn her head towards me so she wasn't as muffled. I expected him to be. What I didn't expect was for him to scream like a toddler when he found it. True, she said. I sighed, sitting up once again, reluctant to leave the comfortable mattress, but knowing I had to. I swung my feet around, placing them on the cold floor. I waited a moment before climbing to my feet and collecting the stuff I needed to get ready. Fu had yet to move from her spot on the bed. Am I going with you? She asked out of the blue. I don't see why not. You don't really have anywhere else to go, I told her simply. I mean, yeah, you could go back to Taki, but it's not really safe to travel alone, especially with those S-ranked kidnappers on the loose. They were targeting me, but there's no reason I can think of other than being a Jinchuriki. So if that's why, then you could be a target too. Why would anyone target Jinchuriki? He asked, kicking her feet lightly against the end of the mattress. I don't know. Maybe they want really powerful weapons for their army. Or they're avid collectors and want the whole set. I pulled a shirt out of my bag as she giggled. Either way, you shouldn't be traveling alone right now. I'm sure Jiraiya agrees. And you won't mind. I've put up with your antics for about a month now. I think I can handle a few weeks more, I said, turning towards her with a grin. Plus, you're not so bad when you're not stealing my clothes. Before I could react, Fu somehow launched herself off the bed and tackled me to the floor in a tight hug. Thank you, she exclaimed, apparently trying to crush my ribs with her arms. Can't. Breath, I whispered, which brought her back to her senses enough to let me go. She apologized sheepishly, but I could still hear the smile in her voice. Great job, Kit. No, we're stuck with them, the Kyuubi muttered, still moping about how Fu was able to find us so quickly. It's better than those S-ranked guys getting her. Since when do you care about her safety? She's my friend. It's in the description. You need to change that damn description then, because you're going to regret this before the week's out. We'll see about that. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. 1 week later. Well, the Kyuubi asked as we traveled. My eyebrow twitched in annoyance. Well, what? I asked back, knowing full well what he was getting at. Just admit that you regret your decision and things will be a lot easier. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. He sighed in response. How many times must we go over this? I'm in your head, I can hear your thoughts. There's nothing that you can think that I don't know about. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds creepy. You regret bringing her. No, I don't. Naruto, look out, Fu called loudly in my ear. I froze mid-step, looking towards her. There's a stick in front of you. I know, Fu, I said for about the 1,000th time that day. And probably the 1,000,000th time that week. Needless to say, it was getting old. Quick, though, apparently Jiraiya was still getting a kick out of it. I could still hear his giggling even as he tried to stifle it with his hand. I just wanted to make sure you didn't trip, she said. I sighed as I continued walking, making sure to step over said stick. I know, Fu. I wasn't sure if your echoes picked it up or not. I know, Fu. Alright, that's all. Good, I muttered to myself. The three of us walked in silence once again, continuing down the path we were on. We left the last town. It had felt like forever since then, and I had a feeling it was only going to get worse. Naruto, look out, Fu called again. We were only a few yards from the stick. It's a rock. Alright, I may be starting to regret this. Knew it, now let's ditch her. I'm not ditching her just because she's annoying. Why not? Because that is no reason to send someone off into potential danger on their own. You know my reasons. How are we supposed to know if those two creeps aren't still following us? Or maybe two other creeps from the same group. And why would you think they're from a group? Because their robes were the same style and Itachi said something about a leader being upset if he killed me. So there's at least 3 of them, if not more. Adequate deduction, the Kyuubi muttered briefly. But I still want her gone. Stop complaining and deal with it like a grown-up, I answered, rolling my eyes at him. Honestly, it's like you're the 12-year-old and I'm the adult here. Don't push your luck, Kit. Naruto, Fu called, snapping me back to the conversation at hand. What? You didn't answer me, she said. Kyuubi being obnoxious, I told her. She nodded knowingly before turning back towards the road. From the way her face was aimed down towards the ground, it seemed like she was studying the ground in front of us. I sighed. Please tell me you're not looking for sticks again. Or rocks, or particularly large lumps of dirt. Anything you could trip on really. Fu, I'm fine. I don't need you warning me about every little potential hazard in the road. My chakra echoes are on. I can see them. If I can't, then they're not much a threat to begin with. So please stop shouting out like that. But I appreciate the thought, but honestly, all it's doing is scaring wildlife and probably attracting bandits or something, I explained. I paused for a moment, a thought striking me. Speaking of bandits, didn't you say some of them hung around outside the town? Yeah, but they're not much a threat. Shouldn't we have run into them? Well, I kicked their asses last time, so if they saw us they probably ran away screaming. You said you asked them about your team. Can't I do both? Of course you did both, I muttered to myself. I shook my head as I summoned a balloon out of the scroll Jiraiya gave me and started training with it again. Are you sure you should be doing that while we're walking? She asked as I started swirling the water around the balloon with ease. Over the last week, my skill with the balloon has went up drastically. Now that I knew what I was supposed to do, I was able to focus more on doing it than figuring it out. I could do 2 consecutive streams now without much a hassle. I could occasionally start the 3rd and pop the balloon, but Jiraiya said I needed to be able to do it at least 10 times in a row before he'd teach me the next level. Fu, I've been doing this the entire time. Why do you have to ask me this every day? You can't focus on the road if you're focusing on that, she pointed out. Yes, I can. It's called multitasking, I answered flatly. I added the second, a little wobblier than the first, but it straightened out after a moment. It's like walking and chewing gum. Easy. I was just getting ready to add the 3rd stream when the balloon broke apart on its own accord. I guess you're right, Fu said, examining the shredded balloon in my hand. That was actually pretty quick this time. That wasn't me, I said, studying my soaked hand in confusion. I hadn't even added the 3rd one yet. Think it might have something to do with that crossbow bolt in the tree over there? Fu asked, pointing to the tree on my right. Indeed, there was a bolt now lodged in the tree. It took me a second to figure out what that meant, which was barely enough time to pull Fu down to the ground as another one flew overhead. Bandits, I exclaimed as I pulled out a kunai so I was armed. Fu did the same as we got up into a low crouch. Not so long after, a large group of said individuals came out of the woods, surrounding us, each brandishing some sort of dangerous-looking weapon. It was about then that I remembered that Fu also mentioned something about a bandit camp a week out of the village. And by the looks of it, we walked right into the damn thing. End chapter 43. Start chapter 44. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Well, what do we have here? One of them said as they stepped in front of the group. Two little lost ninjas playing in the road. You know it's dangerous to travel without adults, right? 2. Fu questioned, sounding as confused as I was. I activated my other echo points to get a better look. Yep, we were completely surrounded. And Jiraiya was nowhere in the vicinity. I could still smell his distinct scent of toads and ink, but he had apparently hidden sometime before the bandits showed up. Oh yeah, the villagers told me the same thing, I exclaimed, not wanting to draw attention to my sensei's disappearance. I had to trust that he had some sort of plan, which meant making sure we didn't pick it apart before it began. They said some mean-looking bandits live out in these woods, which had us a little worried. You haven't seen any, have you? You little brats, the leader hissed. You know I was going to let you two off the hook. We'd rob you blind and you'd get to keep your miserable lives. Now I'm not so sure. Really, rob me blind? I asked, trying to hide my amusement. And let me guess, by keeping our miserable lives you mean not killing us and selling us to some slavers, right? Actually, I heard that Odo pays pretty handsomely for young ninjas. Figured we'd see what the going rate was. How am I not surprised, I said, narrowing my eyes at the mention of Orochimaru's village. And as a ninja of the village he just so recently attacked, I didn't think I'd be welcomed very warmly. On second thought, I believe we'd rather risk those nasty bandits a little further up. So we'll just be on our way. I took one step down the road just as the bandits' weapons raised higher to stop me. You're not going anywhere, the leader said through gritted teeth. Watch me, I answered simply. Before any of them could move, I threw my kunai behind me, aiming for one of the ones I wasn't currently facing. Judging by the fact that he fell almost immediately after probably meant that I hit my mark. I pulled out two more kunai as the other bandits seemed to realize what was going on and start moving themselves. I noticed one on my left start at me with a particularly large mace, but as I moved to intercept Fu appeared in front of me, knocking him back with her newly formed water gauntlets. I was barely able to keep myself from hitting her instead. Fu, I had him, I yelled as I tossed another kunai at one trying to sneak up on my right, not bothering to watch him fall. Too slow, she said as she jumped quickly to another one that she deemed too close. I rolled my eyes and turned my focus on the two in front of me that were coming up to challenge me. You can't fight two at once, kid, one of them said, sounding too smug for their own good. You're outnumbered. I'm never outnumbered, I smirked back at them, raising my hands into my favorite seals. Unfortunately, before I could do so much as start channeling my chakra, Fu came out of nowhere and knocked them both into the dirt simultaneously. Hey, cut it out, I exclaimed, but she was already moving on a moment later. I glared at the direction she disappeared. She was doing this on purpose and I really wasn't appreciating it. Looks like you're the weak link, the leader whispered from behind me. I had just realized that my 360 echoes had dropped when I was grabbed by behind with a kunai held to my throat. I didn't even blink. Drop your jutsu or he's dead, the man told Fu, making her stop. She seemed to hesitate for a moment before her jutsu splashed onto the ground. I groaned in annoyance. Seriously, Fu, seriously, you think I can't handle this guy either? I exclaimed angrily. He has a knife to your throat. Come on, like that's going to stop me. Well, I'm sorry for trying to save your life. I'm not some damsel in distress you need to save every damn minute. I can fight my own battles, thank you very much. I'm just trying to make sure you're safe. I am safe. Excuse me, the man behind me said, getting both of our attention once again. Sorry to interrupt your little lover's quarrel, but can we please focus on the fact that I have a knife to your throat? I can literally kill you at any time. How the hell is that safe? A tick mark was the only warning he got before I grabbed his knife hand and sent my other elbow into his stomach. I quickly ducked under his arm as I twisted it until he could no longer hold the blade. He was still doubled over as the blade hit the dirt road at my feet. I looked towards Fu, raising a challenging eyebrow at her. When she didn't respond, I decided to prove my point further by raising my free hand and starting to spin chakra in it like I would inside the balloon. Once I thought there was enough, I shoved it into his back. He cried out as the half-formed jutsu forced him into the ground a good half-inch. "Wow, didn't expect that," I said as the man groaned into the dirt. I knelt down to look at my would-be attacker, trying to get a better view of the wound on his back. I let out a low whistle as I picked at the fabric, finding most of his shirt shredded. I could even smell a bit of blood coming from it. And that's not even complete yet. I think I'm going to like this jutsu. I dusted my hands off as I stood up, dramatically placing a foot on my fallen enemy's shoulder. I glanced around at the few others that were left over. "All right, you pathetic idiots, unless you want to be the next one to taste this awesome jutsu, I suggest you all scram," I told them, a sly grin on my face. They paused for a moment before, in a flurry of movement, they started to run. "Hey," I called to them, getting their attention once again. I took my foot off the man and nudged his now unconscious body towards them. "Take your trash with you." We watched carefully as the men quickly collected their leader and darted off into the underbrush. "Now Fu, what did we learn today?" I asked tensely, not turning away from where the men disappeared. "That bandits are just a bunch of violent cowards that can't even beat a couple of genin. You should have learned that trying to keep me from having to fight just causes more trouble, but I guess that hasn't gotten through your thick head yet," I answered. There was a long silence as she thought on my words. "Is this about me fighting all those guys on my own?" "Yes, Fu," I said, turning towards her finally. "I was doing you a favor." She crossed her arms defiantly. "No, you weren't. I could have killed you the first time you did it. The second you almost got me killed because the damn leader noticed and thought I was the weak one. The whole reason I ended up in that farce of a hostage situation is because of you. You needed help." "No, I didn't. I was fine. You couldn't see them. So, I couldn't see Gaara and I still knocked him into the dirt. I couldn't see Neji but he still ended up unconscious by the end. I definitely couldn't see Kiba yet I still won. So please tell me exactly why that's a damn problem now." "Because I know now. I didn't know it before but I do now, so it's my responsibility to make sure those people can't take advantage of it. The only reason they did now was because of your so-called responsibility," I answered, air quoting the last word before continuing. "I can still fight. Just because I can't see doesn't mean I forgot basic combat skills. I'm fine. In fact, I'd argue that I'm a better ninja because I'm blind. So back the hell off and let me do my damn job." There was silence between us as she no doubt glared at me. She was about as stubborn as I was, so I knew this discussion wasn't completely over, but I was done with it for today. I heard a faint rustle in the trees above us as the smell of ink and toads wafted down. "Jiraiya, get out of the trees or I'll leave without you," I told him as I turned back towards the road. "You don't know where to go," my teacher's voice made itself known. There was a small rustle before the sound of Jiraiya dropping to the ground lightly. "By the way, good fight. Would have went smoother without the attempted kidnapping though. It would have went a lot smoother if my sensei didn't disappear before it even started. I was testing you." "Sure, we'll go with that." End chapter 44. This is the end of this What If. I hope you enjoyed the series and all it had to offer. Also thank you Twice the Trouble for writing this great story. If you enjoyed the like, comment, and subscribe for more content. See you all in the next What If. Peace out people.